Oh. Oh my gosh, I have 33 minutes of footage of me eating. Okay, well, today I want to make a video about my abortion story. And I want to keep this video really personal. But when I found out what was happening in our country's legal system, I really felt that saying that an affront to one person's right is an affront to human rights everywhere. I really felt that, and I have started researching collecting more citizenships in places like Canada and the Caribbean. So, hey, maybe everything happens for a reason. I don't really have a written out plan for this video, so I'm just gonna say kind of everything that's been going through my mind, because I think what I'm trying to say with that is that kind of really scared me, that my human rights are kind of being taken away in certain states. And I feel really lucky that I live in Washington, and when I live in New Hampshire, they have a saying, live free or die. And I also want to encourage other women out there watching this, that if you live in a state where your right to get an abortion is getting taken away from you and you're going to get punished for doing that, or if your right to healthcare, because some people who aren't even trying to abort a live fetus, but their fetus died inside of them, they're being forced to carry out the fetus for the dead fetus inside of them for weeks on end because of this. So it's just not even a right to abortion, but it's just a right to healthcare, literally, because not only is abortion healthcare, obviously, if you're watching this, but like I just said, even people who aren't trying to abort a live fetus are being punished. So I see this as truly a war against women. I also want to say people should not be stigmatized for not getting an abortion either. Like, I'm not completely one way or another. And if you keep watching this entire video, I think you're going to be surprised at some of the stuff I say. I think that some of the stuff is, when I talk about it with my close friends, they say, I actually thought that too. So it's stuff that most people don't say, but a lot of people think. So that's kind of why I wanted to put this video out there, because people talk about it so much, in the news and in politics, but they don't really talk about it that much in our personal lives, even though it's more of a personal problem than a conceptual problem. Not that, there's really anything to make different, but to circle back to what I was just trying to say, if you live in a state where your rights are being curtailed, I really think that you should start moving to, some of the coastal states where rights are being protected. And for people like me who already live in states where women's rights and care rights are being protected, I think that we should start trying to get citizenships in other countries, because I think that, things can go better or worse, and it's good to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. I think, if you're in one of those states where your rights are actually being curtailed, you should realize that it's being in an abusive relationship. I mean, that is an abuse of power. And you should really reevaluate things and move away. And a lot of people are. So my abortion story was that I was in kind of a bad relationship where it was on again, off again, and it just wasn't really a feel-good relationship where I was always kind of like walking on eggshells or like really bad vibes kind of thing. But we dated for almost 2 years. Like, it was a really intense relationship, kind of like hot and cold. And I also want to say that birth control really doesn't work for me. Like, I have a lot of really bad symptoms and I have a really hard time taking it at the same time every day and stuff. So, and then pretty much all the guys I dated didn't want to wear condoms either, which now as my adult self, I see, that was really lame and I shouldn't have been with those guys, even though that's how most guys are. But, that's why I'm kind of single now, because most guys are pretty lame actually. So, but I guess, everything happens for a reason, because then I got my son back to where we were in the story. So I got pregnant from this guy I was dating, and he really didn't want to have a baby, and I kind of did, but didn't want to have one. I didn't want to, try to make him, since he was like fervently like, you have to get an abortion, and it just really felt, if I were to persuade him, like, it wouldn't have been authentic to him. And then I also didn't really feel strong enough to raise a child at that point in time. It was only a couple of years, and I think I was 23 years old. So I did not feel emotionally or mentally strong enough to raise a child at that point in time, and especially being in that bad relationship for a couple years as well. So I kind of reluctantly went to get an abortion, and he actually took me to the clinic and they confirmed that I was pregnant, and then we scheduled it. And there were people protesting outside, but to me that just made me angry, because they don't really care. It's just extremely unethical to be putting people who are already seeking healthcare for something and giving them more to worry about. And then it's like, I'm eating a burger right now. That cow is more conscious than a blood clot looking thing, which when I eventually passed the fetus, it was like a golf ball of cells. Like, I'm literally gonna draw it for you. Well, this is a little bit orangier. It was more like a dark black red, but here, I'm just gonna, it was like, yeah, almost the size of a golf ball, and then it just looks kind of like a blood clot. It's just like uneven texture and everything. So it literally looked like a golf ball size blood clot. So it kind of looked like this. So yeah, why else would, this is the last time I'm gonna talk about the abortion protesters, or all the stupid people who supported this change in the law. But why would they show, fake pictures that it looks like a baby when it actually is not even porn? It's just like a squishy red blood clot thing. Like, why would they feel the need to lie unless they know that they don't make any sense on some level? Like, I think these people are really unconscious, honestly. But I went there, then we determined I was pregnant, so then we continued along to schedule the appointment for the abortion, and I don't know what they had planned for me. Actually, the doctors could tell I was really sad about this, but now I kind of see that everything happens for a reason, and I'm not sad about it anymore. But at the time, it was really tough for me, because like I said, my mom had just passed, and I was just totally freaking out that it felt like, there was like a life inside of me, and I really experienced that, and I'd have to kill it. The doctor was like, are you sure? They wouldn't let my boyfriend at the time in the room with me, and they were like, are you sure you want to do this? Because it kind of seemed like you don't want to do this. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. And they're like, is he making you do this? And I was like, no. Even though he was kind of pressuring me to do it, he wasn't, forcing me to do it or anything. So we scheduled the time for the abortion, and then in that time I googled everything to give yourself an abortion from herbs, and then I went to my local herb shop because there was a really good one in my town, but it was actually one of the best ones in the country. So if I lived in another state, I would probably try to have this all ready to go, because it's really good to do it sooner rather than later. If you have to order it in the mail or something, then it would probably be a lot later. So I would have to have these herbs on hand if I lived in another state, but luckily there was an herb shop really close to me where I live. So I just got everything on Google that said to give myself an abortion, and it said to take it at regular intervals, but different intervals for all the different things. So I asked my boyfriend at the time for help with this, but he actually refused to help me give myself an abortion. He said that I had to go, I guess he was just gonna drive me to the abortion clinic, but then I think he was just trying to cover his own ass, or he just wasn't really that helpful with anything, but yeah, so I just kind of gave myself the first dose, but I was so sad that I couldn't keep doing it, and I just kind of took everything at once, and then I had really bad cramps. I think that it felt worse because emotionally I was really struggling with the whole thing. I remember I was screaming in the shower and moaning and stuff, and then actually upstairs, my neighbors, it was a duplex, and it was kind of in the hill, so I was kind of in the basement, but then one side was out up the hill, and then they were my upstairs neighbors. It was just at them and me. So then they were upstairs, and then the wife actually gave birth on the same night that I had the miscarriage. Yeah, I just peed this out, and it looked like this. Feeling that that's, was the baby. I went back one of the next days to the abortion clinic. I think that they had the suction cup thing planned for me, because watching some of these abortion story videos on YouTube, I heard that they do that when they think that the person can't handle seeing the fetus. But I feel like to see the fetus is a lot more healing, I think, because some people say, in their abortion story, I heard one person who decided not to get an abortion, and she said that she saw the fingers or something. So I don't know about that, but I think normally in the first trimester it doesn't really look formed. Back to the abortion story. So then I went back there and I said, I think that I had a miscarriage. They're like, okay, I think that you just passed fetal tissue, which doesn't really make sense. When you're pregnant, you don't pass fetal tissue. So they're like, okay, but luckily they agreed to still give me the test. They gave me pregnancy test again, and they said that I wasn't pregnant anymore. So the herbs worked, luckily, because I'm really sensitive, like I said. So if they were gonna suction it out, that would have really hurt. And then most people say that when they take the pill, they bleed for a month, and it's the worst pain of their lives almost. So when I took these herbs, it felt like really bad period cramps, and then I just bled for a couple days. But most people who take those pills say it's extremely, extremely painful, and they bleed for at least a month, and sometimes multiple months, and they pass a ton of blood and stuff. So I think that people should make these herbs into a product that people can take instead of just giving people such a high dose of such highly processed stuff. I'm gonna put in this video, like, this is not medical advice, so I don't want people to sue me, but I do want to make a safe product one day for people, or for someone out there to make a safe product. But if I ever found myself in that position again, which I don't think I will, because honestly, I'm not sexually active, and I think, as being someone who birth control methods don't really work for, I think that celibacy for me is the only way for me to not get pregnant. Actually, later that year, I got pregnant, so I had the whole abortion thing in the spring, and then in the fall I got pregnant again. So after I had that abortion, like around a month later, my boyfriend at the time and I broke up for the last time. And then I kind of got my life together and met the father of my child, but then we ended up breaking up as well since I had my son. That was a much better, situation for me to have my son in, because with a guy who actually wanted to have a son. And it sounds like I was trying to get pregnant, which I definitely was not trying to get pregnant. I think maybe like subconsciously some part of me did, because then once I got pregnant again, then I was like, I really want to keep it. And then the father of my child also didn't really say anything either way, I guess. But yeah, we both really love our Lance, so I think that's pretty common. A lot of the reasons that people get them is because they're in some kind of abusive relationship, either like emotionally or physically or something. It's going to be really not a good environment for anyone to be in, especially not a child. And then after that, they kind of get out of that, and when they're in a better situation, then they do, decide to keep the baby. Is it ideal to have an abortion from, what everyone's saying? Like, not just me, but it's not something that people want to go through. So people aren't allowed to get them. It's kind of punishing the victim of this whole system instead of fixing the system. Like, why are men pressuring women to get an abortion? Because that's also a story I've heard from someone else, that their boyfriend was like yelling at them to get an abortion, and then after she got an abortion, then they also broke up. So that's kind of not love, that's really abusive. So then the person got pregnant later on, like not too long after. So yeah, people shouldn't need a reason to, but I just think, so the way people treat it is that it's something unnatural. When they're worried about killing, then they should be focusing on other things, because in the first trimester, that thing is not even really conscious. Like, it has no sensory mechanisms yet. It's just like a blood clot looking thing. Like I said, like, they should be focusing on maybe saving like animals or like humans or something. If someone doesn't want to have a kid because it's a huge commitment, it's like one of the biggest commitments you can make, then they're probably not gonna be cut out to be a parent, But like at the same time, a lot of people who don't want to have kids, like, they would actually be really good parents, but they're just like really responsible, so they don't want to have kids either, because like they want it to be like really high standards, and so they want to get to a certain point before they do that, or they want to focus on their careers and they just don't want kids right now, like maybe later. So yeah, I just think it's ridiculous what's happening in our country, and I want to leave. I want to get multiple citizenships because I don't feel safe here. But people also treat it like it's unnatural, but like there's been herbs that can, give people an abortion that you could just take. And I think I mentioned that to my midwives when I had Lance, that I did that, and they said it increases some level where then it stops the pregnancy. these herbs have been around for a long time. We all kind of exist in concert on this planet, in this universe, and it's all kind of a miracle in and of itself. So I say take the herbs, whether it be abortion herbs, the kind that you eat and other things, and live and let live. I do think in the second and third trimesters that you probably should not get an abortion, or you should definitely not be messing around with these herbs unless you're in the first trimester, that's for sure. But I also think at some point, like, the thing is conscious and it does have like perceiving mechanisms like eyes and ears and things like that. So I do think that is kind of not that ethical to do that, but I still don't think that there should be laws against that, because people should not be criminalized, and also you shouldn't be forcing people to have a kid that they don't want to have, because it's not good for society, it's not good for the people having the kid, it's not good for the kid, it's just not good for the community either. People care so much about kids, then freaking like do some fostering. Like, there's so many kids who need foster homes. Like, I want to do that one day, or like adopt a kid. It's kind of not unconditional love if you're only going to love the kid if they don't have Down syndrome, or you're only going to love them if they have, your specific genes, whatever that means. Yeah, that's not really practicing unconditional love if you're saying that your kid has to be a certain way. I think that's really what this comes down to, is just everyone just needs to live and let live a lot more, and get more in touch with their humanity, and also practice unconditional love a lot more. And, focus on actually helping people in integrity, and not like forcing your beliefs down people's throats too. Yeah, everyone just also chill out. I know that this one was more of a controversial one, but I hope that, someone out there who's thinking about getting an abortion either feels comfortable to go ahead and do that, knowing that like later they'll probably have kids when the time is right, or if you don't want to get an abortion, then realize that it's stronger than you thought and do this by yourself. But I think that you're almost there, then that's when maybe you're really not, but like you almost are. This is what I said, like you have to have like a lot of family around, or you have to have money, because otherwise you're not going to be able to have a nice lifestyle unless, everyone's accustomed to different things. But that is how I feel, and I think how a lot of people I know would feel, that you have to have either your family around to help you out while you make ends meet, or you have to have some extra money to kind of make ends meet, because it is just very demanding to raise a child, to up them, be highly educated and everything, and kind of like maintain the lifestyle that we all want to have with birthday parties and Christmas, and going to extracurricular activities and daycare, and having a car and a 2-bedroom place. All of these things cost money, so even just to eat like a wide variety of food, like that all costs money, especially around Seattle. Seattle's an expensive area. So I honestly feel so grateful every day that I have my inheritance to kind of lean on. It literally is a crutch for me. It really helps me make ends meet. Also think if I didn't have this and I had to work a full-time job, or maybe more than a full-time job, it's almost unimaginable to me, because I think that I would probably have to move back to South Carolina or something to, be closer to my family. and, maybe live with them or something. Right now, I am taking one rest day a week where I rest for 24 hours. And I know that most moms don't get that. And if I had to work even more than I do now to maintain this lifestyle, and I didn't have that, I don't know how it would be sustainable for me. So I honestly really feel for other single moms out there, and I think about it quite often. And I think that it is so unjust that the stupid government is trying to make women's lives even harder than they have been. That is just really showing how unaware the US government is. And then the repercussions of that, just none of it makes any logical sense. Also, the government isn't really a be-all and end-all. You could just have these herbs on hand and not tell anyone what they are. Yeah, so I just wanted to make this video to say my story and just kind of make things more personal and make it so people start talking about this more, because it shouldn't be such a hush-hush thing. And I also want people to know that when this kind of thing happens, like I said, you really heal after. And normally it's you remember how sad you felt at the time, but then you can see later, okay, now I could see how my life really shaped up kind of right after that. As I had my son, my life got into shape even more after I had my son. So it's just there's a really specific timing to things. And the thing about laws is it doesn't take into account humanity. It doesn't take into account that everyone's different and that there's a different plan. Everyone has a very different journey in life. So yeah, there's just a very specific timing to my abortion, and then also when I had my son. I think you'll know it's the right thing for you, and it's gonna feel crazy on the surface, but if you find the time to go inside of yourself and have a quiet time, you'll feel of your heart what is the right decision for you. And this is why I'm apolitical, honestly, because I have such a distaste for this kind of thing. I really did not approve of that. So I'm gonna eat this second cupcake now. And I hope that everyone has a chill day, and I hope that this video helps someone out there raise their vibration in some kind of way, or also kind of makes people think about things in a different way too, because a lot of people don't know that you could take herbs or that kind of thing, just a tea or whatever. It's just not so intense with just a little bit of bleeding instead of so many months. I even heard someone say they said they had to quit their job at Ulta because of the abortion pill. And yeah, it's just, I don't want to mention the government again, because just in the trash with them. But yeah, I also want to say at the end of this video, thank you guys so much for watching. I really want to increase the quality for you guys of the content and the visuals and the audio and everything. So I'm just kind of doing it slowly and kind of seeing, what it could use improvement in, or some ways I already know that I can do that incrementally. And just honestly, thank you guys so much for watching to this point. Thank you to my 6 subscribers. Thank you guys for the people who clicked and just, gave me the time of day, and it means a lot to me. I have 60 views at the last time I checked. And this is just really a joy to make these videos, and I really wish you guys the best. Thank you guys for watching.